Today's conversation starts with a simple question, one that I think we've been overcomplicating for a very long time. What if the problem we've been trying to solve isn't actually the problem? We spent a lot of time in this country talking about mental health, building programs, funding initiatives, creating interventions. And yet, when you step back and look at the outcomes, it's fair to ask, why aren't things changing in a meaningful way? Maybe it's not because we aren't trying hard enough. Maybe it's because we're trying to solve the wrong thing or solving it in the wrong order. Because before you can treat anything, before you can process trauma or build resilience or talk about healing, there has to be something more fundamental in place: connection, trust, relationships. And that's exactly where today's guest has chosen to do his work. Marty Trujillo is a former United States Marine. Although you're never a former United States Marine, you're always a Marine, with more than 30 years of military service, who now serves as a leader with Colorado Youth Outdoors, an organization that on the surface looks like it's about fishing, archery, and time outside. But when you look a little closer, you realize that's not all that's really happening, because Colorado Youth Outdoors isn't in the business of outdoor recreation. It's in the business of rebuilding relationships between parents and children, between families and communities, and in many cases, between people and themselves. Their model is deceptively simple: bring a parent and a child together, put them in an environment that removes pressure, distraction, and noise, and give them something to do, side by side, over time. No forced conversations, no prescribed outcomes, no expectation that anything needs to be fixed in the moment. And yet, that's exactly where something begins to shift. Because when you create space for connection, real, consistent, shared experience, you start to see things change that no single program or intervention can replicate on its own. Under Marty's leadership, that work has expanded in powerful ways, including recognition at the state level for workforce development and youth engagement, and even in the expansion of land and resources to grow this model further. But what makes this conversation so important is not just what they're doing, it's what it suggests. That maybe the answer isn't another program. Maybe it isn't more complexity. Maybe it isn't choosing between approaches. Maybe it's what going back to something we've overlooked and rebuilding from there is about. So today, we're going to talk about that and about who Marty is, what led him from the Marine Corps into this work, what he's seeing on the ground that others might be missing, and what he believes needs to change if we actually want to see different outcomes. Because this isn't just a conversation about the outdoors. It's a conversation about how we reconnect with each other, with our families, and with the parts of ourselves that often get left behind. I'm Jen Wagman, and this is Vetted. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Marty. Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to have you.
Jen, thank you very much. Appreciate all the time that we've worked together so far, and definitely look forward to the conversation.
Well, one of the most exciting days of my life to date, and I have had some exciting ones, was the day that I met you and got to work with, I say they were power tools. They weren't really power tools, but they were close to it. And I got to wear safety glasses and actually squat down and cut branches and saw. And I learned a lot the day at Venatucci Farms in Colorado Springs. It was at the Student Veterans of America conference, NatCon and NatCon. And what we were doing there was a Travis Manion Foundation service project, and that happened to be partnered with Colorado Youth Outdoors. And you are, what's your title?
Yes, ma'am. No, thank you very much. My title is the Executive Director for Colorado Youth Outdoors in the southern half of all of Colorado. With Colorado Youth Outdoors, as you know and learned about what we do, we rebuild relationships with all family members, primarily focusing on the youth and the parents. all throughout not only Colorado, but as we continue to expand nationwide, we're getting bigger, we're getting stronger, and it's great to see these families grow strong and complete.
Well, you were overseeing the project that day, and I think that I expressed to you how excited I was, and I learned
Yes, ma'am.
a lot about you. At first, you're a 30-year Marine veteran, and you also spent time as a you retired to Colorado Springs, I believe, in 2017, and then
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
worked with Colorado Parks and Wild Service. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Colorado Parks and Wildlife. I was
Okay.
over there at Colorado Parks and Wildlife, yeah, for a good 7 years. Was able to retire out of that with the para program with the state, and lo and behold, then I literally jumped right back into the nonprofit sector.
Okay. And so tell me a little bit how you fell into this role.
Yeah, one of the best things, what we found inside Colorado was behind the scenes when I got out of the military, looking for that purpose and looking for that understanding of what was really worthwhile within the community. I knew I was a servant leader, knew that I wanted to become one of those individuals that could help others. My forte was all hunting growing up and being back here in the Colorado woods and running around doing those great things. One of the best parts about it was when I worked at Colorado Parks and Wildlife, opened up a lot of opportunities from the outdoor perspective, to the point where I became a board member for Safari Club International with the largest hunting nonprofit organization in the nation, but one of the state representatives, so for the state of Colorado. They found me in that role with Colorado Parks or with Colorado Youth Outdoors over here in Colorado Springs, which allowed for this role to really grow in 2 years. Now with the contacts with the community and more so with the people that are out here, we were able to expand and grow about 6 times here in Colorado Springs and grow the families through the relationships that we're missing across the board.
So I know that families and relationships that's the core of your program. We've talked a lot about that and your particular emphasis on the family and rebuilding of relationships through that and through the outdoor program. Could you talk to the audience a little bit about that before we get
Yeah.
into some of the more deeper aspects of that? Because that's how you and I really started then talking, because I never shut up after that. Everybody kind of knows that about me. But you didn't shut up either, right?
No, no, and that was the best part about that conversation. I think that everything has a timing and everything has a purpose when it comes to, people in meeting, but it's that relationship aspect that obviously grew our relationship. And as we continue to grow, the best part about this is that what we truly do, just literally this week. So from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we had 1,100 second graders from the largest school district in Colorado Springs come to Venatucci Farms as their cumulative exercise. The good part about that is these kids are getting involved in nature. So we're getting them focused. Again, the forte of what the heart of hearts is and what we and why we do what we do. It's about nature and it's being outdoors. But what we really do through our core program is focus on the family. And how we do that is it's about the parent and child. They learn how to re-participate with one another. They realize that they're the best teammate. And the families, what we do is we take them off that technological device. In 2 hours, we teach them how to communicate. We teach them that the phone is there for a communication tool, but it's not what is going to make that relationship grow. In a 12-week segment, we literally take them from 5:30 to 7:30 here in the El Paso County region down here in Colorado. That includes the northern half of Colorado Springs to the southern half down by Pueblo. And we take them to different areas to teach them 7 core skills within within that 12-week period. That 12-week period, the first outing is about participate. They learn how to work together. The next 3 weeks, we give them a venture. And that first venture we did for the spring was fly tying. So we teach them how to tie flies. The best part about this is that in that first 3 weeks for 2 hours every Wednesday, 5:30 to 7:30, they are both on their heels, the youth and the parent. And what they're really learning is how to now learn how to appreciate one another. So during this time, they're learning how to say thank you. And most family members will say, hey, mom, and they'll hit them on the shoulder and say, thank you for X. What we teach them is that really the gratitude aspect of this is about the youth, understanding what true gratitude is by placing their heart on the table, letting mom see the heart, and then from there, or dad, and say, wow, now I understand why you did what you did. Instead of waking up early that morning to make oatmeal, you really did it for me. And when they see that, what ends up happening, we give them a gratitude journal. They start exploring that and they take it to a whole nother realm. By the time the 12-week course is done, the gratitude journal is full. The first 3 sessions were about 1 sentence. By the 12th week, they have about 6 or 7 pages filled saying, Mom, I now understand why you told me to do this. And this is a 10-year-old through an 18-year-old. They no longer are sending the text to tell them that. They're understanding that it was important to have my heart on the table. For the next 3 weeks in the next venture, they're talking about communicate. So now they know how to express gratitude. But now the next 3 weeks, we take them through the shooting sports. Here in Olympic City, USA, we focus on shotgun shooting. We focus on small bore shooting, 22s, or we focus on archery. We do have the conflict within everywhere in America today with most people talking about firearms and how bad they are. While living here in Olympic City, USA, the best part is that, that's not a challenge. Here, those families that are interested in, they know that all of our personnel are trained, all of our personnel are certified. But I think the best part about it is that these individuals understand that they're there for one another. So they now know how to appreciate. Now they go to communicate. And what they're looking at is the safety of one another. And that's where you truly see them bond together.
Can I go back for a second to the relationships and the gratitude?
Mm-hmm.
Because now you've gone to they appreciate. And what is the experience you have with that week? Does it just click into place, or do you have pushback? What's the success rate you have with getting these things to work? I'm just
Yeah.
thinking of my own kids, my own teenagers, and how that would vary across the 4 of them.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
instant gratification, instant gratitude, it might not be the same for each one of them.
Jen, no, that was, yeah, I mean, you nailed, this is the secret sauce. And,
Mm.
I'll expose it to you right out the bat. One of the best things that we do is we do a pre-survey and we do a post-survey. We want to know where we're starting from. And in that pre-survey, what we're really looking for is, hey, how often do you guys spend time together? How often do you go outside? We use traditional outdoor recreation as our ventures. Honestly, you could use PAC, participate, appreciate, communicate, and dedicate. You could use that in cake decorating. There is no pushback in the appreciate aspect. And how this truly works out is that first week, when we give them or they come to us, we give them a passport. And in that passport, they're getting stamps for every time they come to a venture. So they're almost like, I need to be to every one of these because I get the opportunity to win prizes at the end. We'll talk about that towards the end. But in doing that, they're very focused on producing something. The gratitude journal, when we start out and we explain to them, about what gratitude is, because we ask them, like I said, the young lad is usually the one that's the roughest, and he'll, Mom, thank you. The funny part is that when we stop them, mom sort of looks, well, isn't that right? And yes, it is right. He said thank you, but did he show you his heart? And she's like, well, he shows me his heart when he cuddles with me. And I said, okay, but let me show you if my mom were here. And I'll get emotional because, again, I mean, I could just picture her there. I could smell the smells of fresh oatmeal being made. I can smell the smells of the pine nuts being roasted. But when you put that heart into it, they understand, oh, mom, is that what you want? And as they look over at mom's crying. Or if they look over at dad and it's the daughter and the dad's crying, because they realize that that is truly the tangible piece of the heart that we don't convey that. We say we do, but it's in a bypass. And once they click and appreciate, probably by the second or third week, it's done. It's on. Because the communication piece, we can teach them how to say yes, no, look over there, do this, do that. But now they're respectful and they can communicate it effectively by just saying, Mom, I told you your finger was here, but I understand why you were doing that because you had that splinter this morning. It's okay, Mom. I didn't want to tell them because I know that you would have offended you. So thank you. And they start having these amazing conversations, and we just step back at that point.
You know what? That's really interesting. It also makes me realize I need to make oatmeal for my sons in the morning, and roast pine nuts because I've not been doing that kind of thing. And yeah,
Well, but
okay.
and again, I think you're Jen, you're spot on. But again, is that they don't know. The I think the one thing is, and why we're so successful in the last 2 years. So Colorado Youth Outdoors has been around for 25 years, and it was started by Bob Houston, our founder. He's still actively in the game here as we continue to grow. But I think one of the best parts about this is that we take it for granted as humans. And I think that when they really focused on this, and when I was approached with this model 2 years ago, I didn't understand how specifically because I thought it was about just being outdoors and teaching traditional outdoor recreation. It's much more than that. That's where I think when you look at a nonprofit and say, this is what you're doing, okay, that's great, but how did you move the needle? And for us, the moving of the needle became, well, here's your pre-survey. Do you get outdoors? And it could be just as general as that. After 12 weeks, when we utilize that core program or that core product, what we truly realize is that in 12 weeks, we've not only moved the needle, we've built a team that is inseparable. And it shows that inside this survey.
I really admire the way that you do it. And so you after the shooting, what's next?
Yeah, after we go through the participate, then we go to appreciate the gratitude. Then we go into communicate. That's where we have one of the three shooting sports aspect of it. And then from there, finally, it's dedicate. And in the dedicate phase, now we just finished up our spring core yesterday. And in the spring core piece, literally, this is where you have the 10-year-old with a 12-foot fly rod and the parent with a 12-foot fly rod. And both of them are out catching fish. They're inseparable. And that's the part for us that really, we had one of our volunteers works with an organization called American Legend Homes. And we're out there last night, and they've been working with this family for the last 12 weeks. And they were just basically the surrogate. Well, last night, the kids were a little standoffish, but last night, the kids were crying and hugging them and just saying thank you. Then the mom was there like, now I understand why I need to go get this because that's what I've been missing my entire time. And that's what really took it to the next level.
That's wonderful. Well, something exciting happened in 2025. You entered into a partnership with Chevron. You received 131 acres for conservation and programming expansion. That is not small recognition, that's trust at scale. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, thank you. So behind the scenes, 25 years, Colorado Youth Outdoors, our founder, Bob Houston, obviously, he is a man of many talents. And I think one of the best parts with Bob is, he saw the future of this with him and his brother and building these relationships up in the northern half of Colorado, a lot of gas and oil industry. Chevron was one of them. And to the point now where Chevron was working through a property piece that was up there in Colorado, northern Colorado. And that 131 acres that was or became available was used as a conservation piece that most of the organizations, to include Colorado Parks and Wildlife, uh, either looked at it, what were the restrictions, or looked at it as how do we go or proceed forward. Chevron funded that individual endeavor through the American Cattlemen's Association. And in the end, what ended up happening in 1 week, we closed out that to put it into a further easement, from my understanding. And then from there, we actually have the rights for that property across the board. So as a nonprofit, what we do is we'll take a conservation easement and then place our model on top of it. to ensure that obviously it limits the developers, it limits all of the other assets that can go inside those arenas, but it also allows for us to truly ensure the conservation piece, not only for the families, but also for the future of the shooting sports, which include hunting, fishing, and those types of activities.
In the 30 years that you were in the Marine Corps, what did that teach you about people that you didn't fully understand until after you took the uniform off?
Hmm. I would say what 30 years taught me in the Marine Corps is perseverance, number one, but also humility, I would say number two. And number three, everything is a opportunity to learn as I continued my education across the board. But the most important thing I've heard, and literally was from the second grade, it was from the second grade drama teacher over here for District 11.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you could either be the sage on the stage or the guide on the side. And I was like, that is brilliant. And I would take that to the grave now simply because I think one of the things that I've learned in 30 years, after I just told you about the perseverance and that humility aspect, is that it's never about me. It's never about our organization, Colorado Youth Outdoors. It's about the team and how do you convey that and envelop the community to do something for all, regardless of who they are.
Well, community, as we've talked about, and we agree, I think wholeheartedly, community is everything when it comes to both the active service and veteran community. And I think, we've talked about that community. I think that goes to deployment and reintegration. In your opinion, what are people missing about what families go through when someone comes home? What does reconnection actually look like in real life, not in theory?
Yeah. No, another great question. I think, being here in El Paso County here in Colorado Springs, we have 5 military bases in El Paso County. Obviously, Northcom, we have the Air Force Academy, Peterson Air Force Base, Fort Carson, and Schriever Air Force Base, where Space Command now is over here as well. One of the interesting perspectives of that is those individuals that come back, being deployed several years myself, having the opportunity to serve our nation. I think what people, how do you convey that into a real world scenario after coming from a third world community? And, the family first and foremost is the most important, but who do you have the ability to talk to? It's usually that other veteran that's there to convey it to, but what what channels are there to allow for them to truly convey it? Like-minded individuals, like-minded job specialties, like-minded things that allow for that growth. For me, when I realized that, wait a minute, I no longer can do this. I don't want to do this. Had the opportunity at the GS level as a senior, Master Guns E9 in the O3 field in the infantry, had the opportunity to do several GS jobs,
Mm-hmm.
had the opportunity to do several contract jobs. But I knew that for me, it was not the premise of going back to something I knew. I'd already mastered it 30 years. I would say those individuals that have already mastered it as an E5, as an O3, they've already know how to do it. To go back into that world, is there really a truly growth aspect? The challenge was for me going out to Colorado Parks and Wildlife, something completely new. But now I had to be in front of people and I had to tell the truth. And I had to, not that we didn't in the military, but it was more so you couldn't hide behind my rank. I had to be real with people. I had to be honest. I had to be, and not that I wasn't, but I think more so it's you had to be true. That is, I think, the most, again, humiliating aspect that most people, especially in the military, they've gone and achieved so much. But for someone, it may be that 2-year-old at Venatucci Farms going through second grade, and they just realized that building a teepee with sticks was the most important thing. And you can just literally look at them organically and say, thank you. Yes, it is the most important thing. The 1% of people that are actually in the military, see things from a different myopic. Whereas for us, once we get out, we truly have to look at how do I assimilate into this body of people. And what I really learned was perseverance. People do things different. And that perseverance really allowed for me to not only shine, but also grow into the leader now that I am on the civilian sector.
Say that's a really interesting and important, timely piece right now, because reintegration after is something that I think a lot of people are struggling with, and we are missing when it comes to dealing with families who are coming home and uh, helping with their loved ones who are going through it. So I'm curious as to what you think about that as well, and what we're missing. What does reconnection actually look like in real life, not just in theory?
Yeah. No, Jen, again, another solid question. I think that the perseverance, number one. I mean, you gotta go through it. I mean, there is no way around it. Even if you were to go over to a contract job or a job that is, still associated with the military, it's different because you no longer, even though you're a E5 and O3 or a O12 and an E9, both on the spectrum of the military rank spectrum, it doesn't matter. You're no longer associated with it. You still have a sector of it with you, but you're not the same. And I think that persistence to be good at it, you've reached that portion. The contractors will come looking for you because they know that you have that qualification. But what really comes out is that aspect of humility. Can you, or can that veteran, or can I, is that something you can take with you going forward in that civilian sector? Can you literally take, because you no longer wear the stripes or the bars or the stars or anything else, can you have the conversation with that second grader and be humility? I mean, they'll put you in their place quickly. As we had those 1,100 kids at Benatucci Farms this last weekend, what I've learned is you're either going to be a sage on a stage or you're going to be a guide from the side. And it was amazing to just put that together here after almost 10 years out of the military. That will stay with me forever because realistically, here was a drama teacher that is so motivated to have these kids see how things are. And you see them light up because somebody is showing them and letting them experience what it is. Whereas the military, we did that,
Right.
but in order to allow for these people in the real world to assimilate for our military, but also for us to be that guide on the side and let them explore and see our world makes it much easier instead of trying to be the sage on the stage and tell them how it is.
So, if you could redesign how we approach youth, veterans, and families from the ground up yourself, what would you keep? What would you burn down?
Me personally, I think the model, and I say this biasly, obviously, with Colorado Youth Outdoors, the model, purely genius.
Mhm.
You have to participate, you have to appreciate, you have to communicate, and you have to dedicate yourself to something. How do we dedicate ourselves to something that we don't understand? Well, you have to learn. And it's always that model of continual education. I mean, I think that most people, whether it be a trade service, whether it be a lifelong desire to go learn how to play a banjo, whatever it is, we stop ourselves short. Well, I'm not going to be that good, so I should just put it up. And it's that perseverance, not only from that emotional side, but I think it's the perseverance to just keep going because you will be that person, but it's truly up to you to get there. And I think that most people really sell them short. They sell themselves short. But I think the veteran has the opportunity to truly take whatever desire they want, whether it be, I want to go own a business. Well, how come you don't? Well, I can't. I own two. Why would I stop? I have my MBA, I have my master's. I'm thinking, well, geez, I'd really like to go for a doctorate. Well, why? Because I don't have the money. Well, I'll go get a loan. But I think that behind the scenes, we are so quick to pull that. lever. I can't do it because of something. Blame it on something else. No, no, no. That's not an option. It was never an option in the military.
To that end, are we overcomplicating something that might actually be fundamentally simple? Do you think that we've replaced connection with programming, and that's why we have this issue? Because we're not doing enough of the connection with the people that can actually help with the massaging of those kinds of things, to get them to feel mentored enough to do it, and just simply the boom, 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 here you go, you're out.
Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head with Jen. I think that most of it is that we have become a production line. Type, 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 hit the return. Type, 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 return. Unlike most of the conversations, everything is going to be different. And I think that just having someone to you, myself, could have a conversation for hours about anything. But
Mhm,
I think that most people, when it comes to that, it's truly the trust aspect, but
mhm.
also, hey, can you see through my lens? This is what I see. And I believe that most people not only want to expose that soft belly, but also look at it from the perspective of, well, you will never understand. Well, they don't give it that opportunity to let people see it.
Can you, talk about, like, you've seen it, you've watched this model work over the last couple of years, and I know we're talking in some sense about two different things, like
Sure,
different
sure.
moments with
Yeah.
the families, but they are, I mean, really, you can think more globally, and
Hmm.
how some of this, works evolution-wise in different circumstances. What have you seen in these moments that has surprised even you?
I would say if, looking at my transition from the military to Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and then now working as an executive director over here with this nonprofit.
Mhm,
What is the most amazing part to me is how, when you give, and let me put it this way, when you allow two people to be uninterrupted in a space that allows for them to be organically true to themselves,
mhm.
but also the other person, not in a form of a relationship, but more in a form of just pure exposure. That's when it happens. I think, within the transitional aspect of this, is that we force that model.
Hmm.
We as a service member that got out, here's your taps, here's your tamps, this is what it is. This is the frame. You do this, you meet this requirement, you're out. Got it. Okay, well, I did that. Now what? Well, you're good. You should be good. You should be able to get a job over here and do this, that, and the other. But I really don't want to do that. So where do I go? Well, no, you have the stamp. I can no longer help you. You move on. And I think that transitional aspect, that underbelly, now is where most service members, in my opinion, most service members are like, hey, well, but what about this? I didn't fill this out, or I didn't do this. I didn't meet this requirement.
It's not just your opinion.
Yeah. But I think that underbelly portion is, or becomes, the part that most of them don't. Okay, so how do I fulfill this? That's what, for me, it took that aspect of, well, you're saying I can do it and I'm saying I can't. So it's me. I'm the one causing the problem. And it's a hard part, that it's again that perseverance, but also it's that humility to say, hey, wait a minute, Marty, the only one that's hurting Marty is Marty. And I'll say it from this perspective. Years ago, I used to chew chewing tobacco.
Mhm.
And I never, that's normal. This is what we do. We're in the field. We're doing this thing, tobacco. It's going to keep me alert. It's going to keep me alive. It's going to keep me this. It's going to keep me that. It wasn't until one day that I realized, well, nobody's hurting Marty but Marty.
Hmm.
I was causing the damage. I was causing the I was causing the gum disease. I was causing all of these problems. Wait a minute. So until you look in that reflective mirror, at what point are we truly going to compensate for ourselves? Because I can blame everybody. The Marine Corps was the worst organization in the world. Never say it. Why? Because it was me. Either I made a choice to make the option to move forward, or I'm going to stay here and just become stagnant.
If you had the attention of every policy leader, policymaker, nonprofit leader, and funder in this space for 60 seconds, what would you tell them that they're missing?
I would say to any entity that believes they're making a difference without a relationship or a solid foundation in understanding that a reflective mirror only sees one way. And without getting through a two-way mirror and looking in both directions, you could never, ever understand why. We know the process of making an apple into an apple pie, but we don't know where we're getting the apples from. And I think that's the inherent part, is that each one of these apples is different. We need to literally figure out what those apples are in order to make that same pie everywhere. But we don't want to look at the apples. We just want to make pie.
That's incredibly insightful. And I know someone who's listening right now whose probably jaw is on the ground, really ready to dive right into the apple pie herself. So that's really, really great. All right. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot, because I think that you hit the nail on the head with that analogy. There are so many different people that we're looking at that the military, the Department of War looks at when they're transitioning people out. It's not a one size fits all. That's what I, with Gen Vets, have been saying. It doesn't matter if we're dealing with post-traumatic growth. It doesn't matter if we're dealing with suicide prevention. It doesn't matter if we're dealing with transition. We are serving we're serving myriad different people here, with myriad different backgrounds and different families, and their futures are all different as well. So their transitions are going to be different, and you can't put them all in the same box. It's a different path for everyone, and we can't give them the same binder with the same information. They have different learning styles, they have different ways of understanding, and they have different needs. So that's a really good analogy. I don't need to, beat the dead horse.
No, I tell you, Jen, I think one of the best things about Gen Vets is that behind the scenes, you're cracking the nuts. Your team is cracking the nut on the DoD or Department of War now. When a tank is broken, it goes through a systematic review of, I need this part to get X to make it back up to an operational readiness portion and make it back into the operational realm of going forward. In the volume, I think I understand why the system is the way it is. There's no question. And I think you get it as well, being there within Gen Vet and seeing it. The question becomes, from a nonprofit perspective, how do you change the dynamic of a one size fits all to a segmented aspect to allow for this group to branch out and literally focus on what are their tiers and what truly shows success. And I think this is where most of the nonprofit realm truly tries to say, we're here to help, but how do I measure, did I move the needle? I think Gen Vet is looking at that very specific piece to say, okay, I've got this group, but I can move it here, but it's not going to be the same needle over here. I can only move it here, but my percentage here can be 10%, but here it can be 0.00001. And here's why. And I think that conveyance of that is probably the most insightful and exciting aspect of Gen Vets, is because you're not trying to solve everything. But I think that Gen Vets is about, guys, I just need to figure out, I have my lifetime to figure out these pieces, but I also have an understanding to prevent pieces in segments to make this thing grow in the future.
It is about bringing people together, because your part here is successful. It's wonderful. It's great, but it is only successful to this degree where you are. If we move it here, it's exponentially more effective, because with Gen Vets, we can reach out here. There are so many more tentacles. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about taking the 45,000 plus existing that have the capability, and we use that number. I'm not suggesting all 45,000, are meant to do these alternative modalities, but let's take what you all do and do well, that are all effective, and let's bring them together in across the country in a way that actually is meaningful. So, Marty, can I ask you, what do you think that we're getting wrong right now in how we approach post traumatic growth, suicide prevention, especially for military and veteran families? We hear all the time the needle is not moving. We're not making any progress. I know we're a couple of years behind when the VA comes out with the report every year, and that's always a little bit difficult to explain and reconcile, especially with the civilians who sort of hear that number and try to understand. It's difficult for us when we read it that it's not, this year we just got 2023 numbers. Well, it's 2026. So that's a difficult thing to understand. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that again, within the mental health aspect of this, we see the veterans that are homeless. We see the veterans that are, definitely out there, doing everything they can to succeed. That was an inherently one of those things that we thought, or a veteran may have thought that, I've done this, so I should get this, or I get the opportunity to do this, or um, perseverance, I think, becomes the challenges are real. And I think from the mental health aspect is that even the veteran has to, realize that it's now in a different world. It's almost a complete 180. And I think that also, I say that from the perspective of the veteran, having the opportunity to look at things differently without now it's almost taking off a set of glasses that we would use as a military member, setting those glasses down. And now I've got a brand new set that I have to look at things a little bit different because it's no longer the same. I used to look at the world like this, but now I have to literally every now and then I'll go put the glasses on just to be like, oh, I remember that. Good. Let me put that away. But I also realize that I have to put these other glasses on to see what is truly in front of me, because how I would mark the realization of post traumatic stress in relation to the different set of glasses that I'm putting on truly is the difference on how I'm going to adjust to that. And I would say that if it's in the military side, the post traumatic stress may or may not be of something that is normal in that environment. But in the outside world, it's a different environment that I have to be able to look through that lens to see what benefits or what is available to me to counter that, whether it be a hobby, whether it be a something that is beneficial to me. But I go back to that aspect of I knew that in chewing tobacco for so many years, I was causing harm to myself. So, in the post traumatic sense aspect of this, why would I cause harm to myself if I know I'm the one doing it? Again, the one sided versus the two-sided mirror. How can I prevent? I don't want to cause my own self injury. So, like in using tobacco, why would I keep using it? It wasn't until I had that final aha moment, like, well, wait a minute, nobody's telling me no, so it must be okay. Well, it wasn't because no one told me no. I made a conscious choice to be, I saw the light. Well, wait a minute. It's been telling you all this years that it can cause mouth cancer. Why would I keep doing it? Oh, because it was, add any adjective in there. Cool. It was great. But I think that behind the scenes, most people, even, myself, post traumatic stress, yes. But truly what counters it is more so for me, that aspect of that second grader, the 1,100 second graders, that allowed for me to see their joy, because now we're helping them literally grow and produce something in this thing we call our world. I think that how do you do it becomes another whole set of looking at or looking through those glasses to prevent yourself from seeing all the doomsday aspect of it because you went and put on those military glasses again.
So you're talking about basically finding your answer, finding your thing that makes things better, because y I'm gathering, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not actually a mental health issue. It's something that we're mislabeling. It's something, in many, many cases, not all, but in many cases, that I believe that, and as do a lot of my colleagues and those in the mental health profession, that this is suicide in the veteran and mental and active duty community is a community issue that we need to be addressing, not a mental health issue. And so,
Yeah.
despite the billions of dollars that we're spending, despite all of the think tanks that have gone in, all the companies having the cabals that we have, and the good intentions and the well-meaning people doing this work, the outcomes haven't meaningfully changed. So, part of what you're talking about, I think, is find your why, find your reason for getting up and your piece, whether it's beekeeping, whether it's equine therapy, whether it's yoga, music, art. What is it that allows you to find your center again? And it may take you years to find, but you don't stop trying, because it is something that, your military glasses, you're right, but there's a way. You can't give up, you have to continue to try to do it. And that's not something maybe I'm making it sound like it's something simple and I have the answer to, but all I can do is continue to try to provide solutions and suggest that you don't have to continue to go a million miles out of your way to find it and Google every time something else fails. I think that we should be able to provide you a one-stop shop, so that
Yeah.
when something doesn't work, you have to go across the path, not necessarily across the state or the country, or spend a week in, that taking off work to do something.
Yeah. I would say, Jen, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, no words in my mouth. I mean, you hit it right on the head. And I think, find your peace, find your why, because realistically, peace isn't something you stumble upon. And once everything is perfect, it's still not going to be peaceful, but I would say, one, control what's yours. I mean, right now, it was that aha moment in chewing tobacco several years ago. I mean, it's almost been 25 years ago that it was like, well, wait a minute, I'm causing my own harm. And again, control what's yours, own up, identify, but again, what's yours? And then from there, cut out the noise. I think that noise, that hearing everybody tell you what's right or wrong or this or that or that, what the noise is. But I think that most people, they'll say, well, I want to hear the accolades, I want to hear the goodness, I want to hear the badness, I want something to measure against. Well, you control it, control what's yours. Third, anchor yourself in something steady. What is that steady piece? For me, my steady piece since I was about 8 years old was being out hunting in Colorado. That's why I came home. I knew that was my calling. I knew that I wanted to be here in Colorado. And I knew that, I love this. I stay in shape for one reason, it's to be outdoors. But that's my why. I know that keeps me in shape, that gets me to the gym, that does all of these things to allow for me to see that young kid at 8 years old shoot their first turkey. It shows me that guy that is 95 years old and it's taken his last hunt, but he knows why he's out there, to feel the wind on his face and be out there with his grandson and say, that's mine, and have that true anchor part. But last part is, finish what you start. You've gone through this journey as a military veteran. You've looked at it. You've defended this country and been that 1%. But why would you finish early? Because the finish line is truly on how did you finish this entire race, and how did you make it yours? How did you block out all those naysayers? Because the naysayers were in the military, but you succeeded. Why are you going to let this other community or this other class or set of classes allow for them to be dictating what you think, feel, or do? But you have to finish the race. And last, accept that pressure isn't the enemy. Because pressure is not the enemy. Everything that we get tested on, everything we've done in the military, everything we've done since birth, the pressure is what's truly making and honing you to become the individual you are. And I would tell you that for me, I mean, there's several every day's of someday of, from the person that's traveling 55 miles in the fastest lane on the highway. To me, that's a pressure point. Now I play a nice little game on the highway, knowing that I'm going to see 10 of those individuals on the highway. And I say hello to them every morning. Hello, participant number one. I'm glad to see you today. Hello, number two. Thank you for coming. I'll just go around you today. In my mind, I know I could get angry, but I know too that I choose not to because I take the opportunity to at least stabilize that pressure. It's not a test. I know in meetings that I have the same people. They can press my buttons, but I could be like, there you are today. Thank you for coming. I know you're going to give me that bad question, but I know I can look at you and say thank you. And I think that's where the PTSD, that's where, stress is not the pressure. It's how do you handle it? How do you make this into a game as an O1 in any service or an E1 in any service? Because that's all it was a big game. Now, as we look at it, we've done the big game. We've completed everything we were tasked to do. But now we look at it from okay, it's not that bad. Let's turn the pressure down, make it into that same fun aspect of it to truly just wait a minute. I'm expecting 10 of you today. I only got 9. Okay, that means I'm going to have 11. I know I'm going to have 11 of you tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, you make me laugh. All right, well, one last question. What does success look like, I don't know, 10 years from now? Not for Colorado Youth Outdoors, but for the families that you serve.
I think what I would say the families that we serve in Colorado Springs, what success looks like is a wholesome, fully appreciative family that can express not only gratitude, but also the pressures of life. They can truly expose their inner workings, not through a technological piece, not through AI, not through ChatGPT, but have a conversation to put everything aside and say thank you. I think in 10 years, that's truly that dying art that's going away. I think in the military aspect, that now with drones, with all the other capabilities that we have, satellite communications and all those other pieces, we almost built the perfect disconnector instead of the connector. Mm-hmm. I think what builds these communities is truly the aspect to be together, to laugh, to thank you, to shake someone's hand, to go to lunch and just listen about you grew oregano. That's what you did for this summer. Yeah, but man, look at this oregano. It's the best ever. Has no contextual conversational meaning, but it's truly just the excitement of having the conversation that I think that's the social skills that our grandparents and their grandparents were trying to convey, but we forgot.
How about Colorado Youth Outdoors?
I think in 10 years, you're going to see Colorado Youth Outdoors in an organization called American Youth Outdoors. And it's going to be bigger than just the state of Colorado. Okay. Right now, we have other organizations trying to figure out how do we tie your model into our model. We've got beta tests that are already in place with other national organizations. And the best part about it is that we're not trying to, this is ours, this is what this is, this, you can't have it. We're like, let's go. Let's figure out how to get it in front of everybody, because what we're seeing in 2 years in Colorado Springs, we've grown 6 times. And in doing so, now, our partners are the foundations in Colorado Springs to include the biggest school district in Colorado Springs. It wasn't built off of, hey, ourself beating the drums. It was the families that were beating the drums. And they said, we need to figure out what you're doing different. And I think that's the excitement of Gen Vets, is that you guys are doing the exact same thing. You guys, people aren't coming. Gen Vet is not beating their drum. Gen Vet is telling, hey, we got a way to do this. Guys, let us show you how we're moving the needle. And that's what makes the difference.
You're very, very kind. That's why I like you so much. Thank you. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for making me laugh and smile, and I hope the audience enjoyed it as much as I enjoy you.
All right, Jen. Thank you very much. Thank you for all you do. We're looking forward to the
Likewise.
future. If there's anything that we can do in the future, we'd love to help. We'd love to be, any way we can move the needle for Gen Vets, any way we can move the needle forward, we're completely in, and we look forward to the future with you.
Anytime you have anything that requires the use of power tools, you know where to find me.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you, Jen.
Bye.
Bye bye.